Welcome to Something Extra, a show that was created for you to learn more about people with Down syndrome in your community. I am your host, Maria Sivertson, and this is my daughter, Eve. This month, we are celebrating mothers. Today, you will be meeting a mom from our community, and you will hear her incredible story about how her daughter with Down syndrome changed her life. I am here today with a mom from our community and a DSANEO board member, Michele Dynia. Michele, you have a very unique story to tell. Yes. Let's start from the beginning, when you first decided that it was time for you to have a child.
Sure. So I'm going to cry because I always do.
You're going to make me cry.
I know. I had been dating somebody and I felt like everything led up to that moment. Everything felt right. Everything felt like, this was finally going to be it. And like every other relationship, of course, it ended. It really caused me to lose hope that I would be able to have a family a traditional way. That winter, we were at the zoo for the Christmas lights with my family, my best friend, and her kids. And my dad was playing with my best friend's son, making him giggle and everything. And my best friend looked at me and said, "Michele, you need to give him a grandchild." And it really stuck with me. So at the beginning of the next year, I was getting ready to turn 38. And I thought, what am I waiting for? I confided in a couple friends what I wanted to do, and they were beyond supportive. And I started investigating into how to do artificial insemination, what I needed to do, and get myself in a better financial position, save some money, things like that, cut costs and everything. And that also happened to be the beginning of 2020, which we all know what happened then.
The pandemic.
So, doctor's appointments weren't happening, things like that. So I just kind of sat back and just tried to be patient about it. And then kind of the end of summer, I finally was able to get into my OB, and I told her what I wanted to do, and she was beyond thrilled and immediately referred me to a fertility doctor. They started the testing to make sure that, I was okay to be able to do the procedure. And we were all set to do it in September. And my cycle didn't line up right with his vacation, unfortunately. So I couldn't do it then. And I was really disappointed. The next month I was on vacation at the time that I would need to be at the doctor and things like that. So finally, everything came together in November of 2020.
And that was a special day, right?
The day I went in to have the procedure done, I realized when I woke up that morning, it was the anniversary of my grandma's death. And I knew at that moment, even though they prepared me, there was only a 10% chance of it working. I knew it was going to happen. I knew I was going to get pregnant. And I also knew it was going to be a girl. Could have been wishful thinking too, but I just knew it was going to be a girl. And the week of Thanksgiving, I found out I was pregnant. My family had no idea what I was doing. My family had no idea what I was doing. And the week of Christmas, I saw her heartbeat for the first time. That's when all this started, and it's never stopped. But I ended up surprising my family on Christmas Day. After we had opened all of our presents, I had 4 T-shirts wrapped with Aunt, Uncle, Grandma, and Grandpa messages on them. And I recorded the whole thing, had some family friends over, and I told my family I was pregnant. And I mean, the amount of shock and surprise and gratefulness was the best Christmas ever. Best Christmas present I could give my family, and everybody was over the moon excited.
Yes. So then you find out you're pregnant, and you told me that you feared some things about your pregnancy.
So even going into getting pregnant and waiting as long as I did, I knew Down syndrome was a possibility. The older I got, which is why I decided to try to do it sooner rather than waiting for that perfect man-woman marriage scenario, and just to do it on my own. So yeah, I knew it was a possibility, and I was afraid of it.
And you're 12 weeks into your pregnancy.
So I went for the non-invasive prenatal testing, and like, even though I knew Down syndrome was a possibility, for some reason I didn't think much about the test results. I thought, I'm going to find out if I'm having a boy or girl sooner. And when I got the phone call, I was by myself, and she said, unfortunately, we didn't get the results we wanted, and there's a 93% chance your child has Down syndrome. From that point, I didn't hear anything else she said. I remember pulling the phone away from my ear, texting my mom and saying, I need you here now. She started asking me questions on the phone, and I told the woman, I said, I can't focus right now. Can I call you back? And
it's just the shock of hearing that.
It was my greatest fear realized.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand why it was happening to me. I felt like I had done something wrong. I didn't understand why this was my one chance to have a child. Like, why was this happening to me? And my parents got there as best as they could. They sat down, they talked to me. And I remember my dad looking at me and saying, we love this child no matter what. And their support never wavered. None of my family. They were there for me. They helped me in every way possible. But even through that, I felt so alone. You go through the roller coaster of emotions, you know, from the sadness to the fear, anger. I went through all of it. And then on top of all that, after you kind of get through that, then you start to feel guilty for feeling the way that you felt. And without having a partner or spouse or boyfriend or anybody with me, like, I felt like nobody understood what I was going through. My family was amazing, but I just felt like nobody knew what I was going through. This was, you know, my child. They were excited they were having a grandchild, but in my heart, I was upset with the diagnosis.
But after you received her diagnosis, you started preparing for a baby with Down syndrome.
Absolutely. There came a point where, like, a switch flipped.
Yeah.
And you go from that emotional roller coaster to,
I'm having a baby.
Let's do this. Like, we got to do this. Like, let's get prepared. I remember the doctors wanting to do an amniocentesis, and I said, you know, we did an ultrasound. You could see that she didn't have a nasal bone, which was a hard marker. And I said, then we're moving forward as if she has Down syndrome. Like, at this point, I don't need any more tests. Like, just, she has Down syndrome, and let's move forward with it. I read the book Bloom by Kelly Hampton, and reading that helped me because it made me realize what I was feeling was normal. It didn't make me feel as guilty. Like, at that point, I understood what I'm going through is what I'm supposed to be going through. After that, I started the healing process of, like they always say, mourning the life of the life you thought your child would have.
The perfect child, yeah.
After I got through that, right, typical child, you know. After I got over the vision of what I thought her life would be, and moved on to what it would be, that's when that switch flipped in me, and then it turned acceptance, and it turned from the why me to the why not me. Posting it on social media and sharing it with my friends and family, the amount of support I got blew me away. It still does to this day, because people are just amazing in how much they love her, even if they've never met her. And those are the little things that people say and do that helped get me through what I went through.
So Delaney is born.
So I had created the Instagram page to document the rest of our journey at that point. And then I was due to be induced at 37 weeks because of my blood pressure. And the weekend before is when I learned Delaney's going to do everything when Delaney wants to do it. And I went into labor early. And they'd prepared me for the fact that she could be admitted into the NICU. So, like, in my head, I was prepared for the worst to happen, you know, her to be taken away from me and not have that stereotypical perfect birth where you get to hold your child afterwards. Like, I was prepared to not have that. And I remember just sitting there and hearing my mom across the room going, "Michelle, she's beautiful." And then they brought her over to me, and she was perfectly healthy. She didn't have to go to the NICU, and I got to sit there and hold this little perfect miracle that I was so afraid of. And everything changed, and it was...
She was just your baby.
She was my baby, and she's just blown me away ever since.
You started advocating for people with Down syndrome.
Yeah, so I started the Instagram page to advocate, to educate, break down those stereotypes, show people a realistic view of what it's like with a child with Down syndrome. There's so many things out there that are outdated, beliefs that are outdated, resources, perceptions, everything's outdated. And so I wanted... I took that, why not me, and decided this happened for a reason and I need to do something about it. And so that's what her Instagram page is about. I eventually created a Facebook page as well that parallels everything from Instagram, just to continue to make that outreach to people.
And then you got connected with DSANEO.
Right. So when I first got the diagnosis and posted about it, again, like the support that I received, the people reaching out to me, messaging me words of encouragement and support. Somebody had reached out to me and said, "Hey, there's this organization. Do you want me to send them your information, or do you want me to send you their information?" And I said, "Go ahead, here's my information," because I was still, that was the day that they'd confirmed the nasal bone and definitely that she had Down syndrome. So I was still kind of reeling a little bit at that point. And I remember getting like the first message, and I just responded and said, "I'm not ready yet." Like, I still had to work through that roller coaster of emotions. But it was so comforting to know that there was a community that was out there that existed, and when I was ready, they were ready for me. And when I got past all those emotions, I reached out, and it has been nothing but love and support ever since. It felt like a family that I've always had, just never knew.
Yeah, you get that instant bond.
Yeah,
when you
definitely.
meet, you know, other moms, parents, just anybody that has a connection to an individual with Down syndrome.
People who understand more what you're going through on a daily basis. Yeah.
And then you decided to become a board member.
Yeah, so one day I was scrolling through LinkedIn, and I followed DSANEO on there, and I saw the post about board members, and it was like,
why not?
Like, why wouldn't I do this, you know? I've been thinking of ways to try to give back to the community and get involved more in the community, and for an organization that helped me as much as DSANEO did, I wanted to be able to do for others what they did for me. And so it was a no-brainer, and I was just absolutely grateful to be accepted to the board right away.
Yes. Now tell us a little bit about Delaney. Maybe not a little, a lot.
I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Like I said, she's going to do everything on her time, and I learned that the day she was born. She is just above and beyond anything I could have ever expected out of her. You know, she took her first steps at 15 months. She's already walking, practically running sometimes. When she breaks out of her baby gate and takes off, she's pretty much running. But she's the most observant person I've ever seen. Like, you can tell that she's hanging on every word that she's hearing, and you can see it, like, going in, and
she's processing
she's retaining it for later. some of the stuff with her, like working with sign language, you work on it and you work on it and you feel like you're getting nowhere, and then bam, all of a sudden she's like doing it, and you're like, she'll do it when she's ready. And that's how it was with everything. Determined, teaching her walking and how to go from crawling to sitting up.
Like she does therapies.
Yes. Yeah, she's been in physical therapy since she was 2 weeks old. Occupational therapy probably maybe a month or so after that. But they'll work with her on something and they'll spend the whole hour working on it, and you'll see like her tiny little face is so determined to do what they want her to do. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Like, I learned so much from her on a daily basis. And then the next day, she's doing it. It's like, okay, what next?
Yes,
like,
I've watched her grow on your blog. Well, so there, earlier we mentioned stereotypes about Down syndrome. What has surprised you the most about Delaney, and how has she changed those stereotypes for you?
I mean, I think the biggest saying, I guess you could say, that I learned was that Down syndrome is a comma, not a period. She'll do it. It might not be on the stereotypical time frame, but she'll do it. And I guess I expected it to take longer than it's taking with her. And I know every child's different, but I mean, her doctors are always blown away at how well she's doing. And that's the kind of stuff, like, I just expected there to be more challenges. I mean, I'm not saying there's not, but like, she's so determined to do whatever it is that we are trying to get her to do. And I expected stuff like that to take longer with her, and she's blown me out of the water. Like, she'll do it. And the things that she doesn't do right away, like, once she finally decides she's ready to do them, like,
go girl.
She doesn't stop.
And what about your family and friends? How has she changed their perceptions?
I don't know that they had the same ones that I did. But she's just a ray of sunshine, and brings so much joy to everybody around her that I don't think people see a disability when they look at her. They just see a beautiful little girl that they gravitate towards. And I think that's just kind of what most people say to me. I post something with her every day, and if I don't post it until like noon, I get, "Where's Delaney?" Like, why haven't you posted yet? Like, people come to expect her, post every day, and to see her every day, and they tell me I'm having a bad day. I go and look at your feed to see a picture of her smiling, and
cheers them up.
It does.
Yes, they all fell in love with her. We all have. She's adorable. So what are some of the challenges that you're afraid that she'll face?
So
she grows.
This week on her Instagram, somebody called her the R word.
I saw that.
And commented on a post of her in the bathtub that I should have held her under. I know social media is a place for people to hide behind a keyboard. And I understand that people do that kind of stuff to get a rise out of them, but I'm afraid of that stuff happening to her in person when I'm not there to punch that person in the face, because trust me, I will. But I'm so afraid of people saying that kind of stuff to her face and treating her differently and making fun of her and bullying her for being different. I know she's special and I know she's amazing. I just hope that the people that are surrounding her throughout her life treat her that same way, and that she doesn't have to face that kind of horrible stuff in person, and then I can protect her from social media and seeing that kind of stuff. But I took a screenshot of that and I shared it on her social media because I want people to see, and I didn't blank out the R word. I left it there because I want people to see that word written out and aimed at a child with Down syndrome so they understand the impact of it. Because I know people use it casually and they're not directing it at people and they just use it as a word in their, everyday language. But I want them to see how aiming it at a child with Down syndrome can cut so deep and how hurtful it is, so that they don't use it in their day-to-day vocabulary anymore. I want them to understand the impact of a word like that, to stop using it. So I did that intentionally, and I want people to see, what we go through. And I got so many comments back of support and people sharing it to spread, the visibility of acceptance and what a child with Down syndrome has to go through.
And they face later.
Exactly. And I got one person on our Instagram who responded to that and said that coming to our page after they got their child's diagnosis was their therapy. And that seeing her and how wonderful she is and how great she's doing helped them get through their diagnosis. And that's why I do
why you're there.
What I do. If I can help one person not be as afraid as I was, it's all worth it. And even dealing with the trolls. Because the good and the comments like that far outweigh any of the bad stuff anybody could ever say to me.
Because you have hopes and dreams for Delaney.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are they?
I want Delaney to be whatever she wants to be. When I was home on maternity leave with her, we watched a lot of HGTV, and she kept staring at the TV, and I kept saying, she's going to be the first kid with Down syndrome to have her own HGTV show. And then I watch Guys Grocery Games, and she's watching that, and I'm like, she's going to be the first person with Down syndrome to have her own cooking show. Like, I have those expectations and hopes. I don't want to say expectations. I have those hopes for her, but I want her to be able to do whatever she wants to do. We watched the movie Champions, and she sat there watching people just like her on TV. Yeah. And it gives me hope that there are people out there that are cutting these pathways for anybody with any disability to do what they want to do. And I'm hopeful that when it comes down to it, when she gets big enough to make decisions on what she wants to do with her life, I hope that either
she'll have the opportunity,
she has the chance, or that she plows through any barrier and does what she wants to do. And I'll be there to help her push down any wall in her way.
Society has come a long way.
Yes.
Even from when Eve was born.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I have a coworker, when his son was born over 40 years ago, he was told he wouldn't live past 10. So, I mean, I hear some of these stories of people who have older children, they're not children anymore, but they're their children, with Down syndrome and what they went through. And I'm grateful that we're miles past that, but I feel like we still have miles to go. And I hope that through our social media that we have, and through just Delaney in general, we can push through a lot of that.
Me too. I loved hearing your story, and I'm sure the audience has as well. We will be right back where you will be meeting little Delaney. Welcome back. Michelle, who do we have here?
Well, this here is the star of the show.
Yep.
This is Delaney. And also with us is my mom, Sandy Dynia, who has been an integral part of Delaney's life.
I gave her life. I cut her cord.
She did. She did. I couldn't do what I do without her. And my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law. They support us so much.
Kathy.
And her family friend, Kathy. The support that I get from them makes it possible for me to be a single mom to a special needs child and know that she's getting the best care possible.
What has life been like with Delaney since she was born?
It's a ray of light. It's beyond anything I ever imagined, never expected to be a grandma. And
now you are.
The best thing that's ever happened to us.
And you take care of her?
I do.
You do her physical
Yes,
therapy?
we go to physical therapy and then occupational therapy, and every time we leave, they go, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it, because she's amazing.
Oh, look, she's smiling.
There we go. I credit her with how well my daughter is doing. She goes to these physical therapies, she sees what they're doing with her, and then she sits there and works with her all day, every day, to keep working with her and make sure that she's as strong as she could possibly be. And I think if she were in a daycare or someplace where she's not going to get that one-on-one attention, I think things are different for her life. So she's where she is today because of her.
Thank you.
She doesn't like taking credit for it, but
No.
it's true.
It's fun. We have fun playing together.
Do you guys have any advice to parents out there who are, and grandparents, who are first hearing about a Down syndrome diagnosis?
Love. Love, unconditional love. I couldn't go on without her. She's light up the life for myself and my husband. And like I said, my other daughter and her husband, they worship her. And love your child, teach her, hold her, teach her to respect, and hopefully she'll get respect back someday.
And don't be afraid.
Not at all. I'm not afraid of this at all.
No,
Not
she's
at
doing
all.
magnificent.
Yeah, she's
Watching her
my
on
little sidekick
social
now.
media, yeah. I see you on there all the time as well, working with her.
Oh, yeah.
Look
Give me
at the
this
belly.
dummy.
She's, as I call, my snickerdoodle. Are you my snickerdoodle?
And then my parents go to the grandparents group at DSANEO as well.
Yes.
They went there the first time, I think, expecting to get some assistance and help and some guidance, and they ended up being the ones to give
Giving
all the
assistance
guidance.
and guidance. But it's wonderful.
You bring Delaney with
Yes,
you
yes.
to the grandparents group.
Yes,
Yeah.
which they all loved.
Meeting
But
her
now it's
and playing with
harder
her.
because she doesn't sit in the stroller and she runs
yeah,
all over the
she
place.
runs around.
So we try to go, but sometimes it's just not going to be in the cards. And
She's too tired to have to chase her everywhere.
she runs the whole building, and they just love it.
Well, I am so glad that you both, or the three of you, came on the show and talked to me.
Say, we're very happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. We will see you next month.
Bye-bye. Say bye-bye.